Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your man Ace. I fumbled a 13K green day yesterday. Late entries, no scale outs, and the fix. Listen, I want to talk to y'all real quick and share with y'all a couple of things. Well, let me put it this way. So yesterday I threw nearly 50K for a swing trade for Tesla. It was a weekly, and I nailed the direction, but I still closed red. So I have 4 late entries, 2 missed scale outs, and a max drawdown of nearly 15 grand. So stick around and I'll show you exactly how I perfect the thesis, my perfect thesis turned into a 5K tuition bill. And then the checklist I'm using so it never happens again. All right, so let's jump into it. All right, so on my screen, ignore that for a minute. Let me talk to y'all for a little bit. All right, so let me give you 6 things that I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm going to give you the snapshot of the day first. Then I'm going to talk about number 2, what worked. Then number 3, I'm going to tell you where discipline slipped, my discipline, based on my strategy. And number 4, the psychological notes. Excuse me. And then number 5, actionable fixes before the next session. And lastly, reframing yesterday's outcome. All right, so let's dive right into it. So let me give you the snapshot of the day. So the weekly Tesla puts, it was a 50K position. That was my exposure. Now, the attempts, 4 intraday re-entries. All right, the running P&L was 10K. That lost, negative 10K. After the 4th entry, and then my max drawdown on the final trade reached as high as 15,000. Okay, I was basically going from like 10,000 to 15,000 because I was stuck in the midday consolidation. I'll show you. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And then the unrealized profits miss was overall after the losses, if you consider the losses. Was 3.5K for the first move, and then 10K late on a late day flush toward the end, just before the closing bell. So my closing P&L was negative 5K. So number 2, what worked? My thesis was accurate. So my directional read as far as the late day sell-off into key levels proved correct. And then the psychological composure. I confronted a real fear threshold, like a negative 10K without rage quitting. That's what they call it. That's one of the terms that they use it. The other term they use is revenge trading or ditching your plan, right? I didn't do any of that. I kept my cool, man. I kept my cool straight up. So and the last point was the re-entry courage for what worked. After earlier stop outs, right? I told you about the 4 missed entries. Hey, listen, I got stopped out and I was still able to take the next valid signal. So basically keeping my composure, watching for, any potential setups. And once the setup occurs, then boom, jump into the trade. So let's talk about number 3, where my discipline slipped. So the moment, late initial entries. The rule that I broke was to act on the first sufficient confirmation, not perfect confirmation. And the cost of me breaking that rule was 4 stop outs for a negative 10K drawdown on the position. Okay. Next was no scale out at the first target. And I'm going to show y'all this. So I'm just running through it real quick. There's key levels that you basically mark out in your technical analysis where you expect the stock to reach, and you scale out at each level, and I didn't do that. Typically what I do is I scale out 90% of my position at the first level. Okay. And I forfeited 3.5K as a result of breaking that rule. That's what it costs. The next thing is no partial on late day flush. Same thing. I was supposed to scale out, but I ignored that rule again, thinking that I'll just let it run up. and that backfired on me. So I forfeited 10K on that flush, right at the end of the day. Then position sizing, that's something that I can, mess around with and test out. I basically went in with a full position. The other option is to scale into that and not all at once, right? Maybe 20,000 up front or 10,000, and then if you reach another level, get the next signal entry, add another 10,000, and rinse and repeat. So let's talk about my psychological notes. All right, so yesterday finally forced me to stare the fear of losing money in the face. I know many of y'all know what I'm talking about. Now, I've been investing for quite some time. Like that's really all I focus on right now, is just focusing on investing. And losing money, a lot of people I realize tell me that they don't invest because they're afraid to lose money. And I tell them, yeah, I get that. And so, but watching that money flee from your brokerage account so quickly, like it could happen in a matter of 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like it could be gone like that, like ASAP. So that's kind of nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So I felt the flood of doubt when that happened. Like I said, I'm down 10K, then I reached as high as 15K. But I practiced during that moment. I didn't allow myself to panic, or I didn't allow anxiety to creep in, doubt, and so forth. What I did was I practiced the breathing and chart watching drills that I've been rehearsing. So putting everything that I've been practicing into action. And that proved that I can stay present under pressure, just like them NBA ball players. You know what I mean? Like you can see what happens when it's crunch time in the playoffs. Those who are familiar with the situation, they rise to the occasion, and others buckle under the white lights and the loud, in the crowd, in the moment. So they might miss free throws, or not call a timeout, or make a mistake and make a silly foul or something like that. And that's the difference between, who can rise to the occasion. And I feel like I passed that test. Next, let's talk about the actionable fixes before the next session. All right, hard-coded scale outs. That's one thing I can do, is like automatically enter the scale out of 80 to 90%. So as soon as the brokerage, as soon as a platform like ThinkorSwim is what I use, as soon as it sees that, it can automatically exit me out the trade at that point. So that's one option. There's some pros and cons of using that I've discovered so far, but that's one option. Tiered entry sizing. I talked about that. I can scale in and into the trade. I can also scale out of the trade at key levels. Next is the one and done rule for weeklies. I can limit myself to one re-entry per thesis and force the chart to set up on a higher time frame before taking round two. Again, I'm going to go over this in the video, but I'm gonna break it down into two videos. So I'm gonna do it in the second video and show you guys. So the next video, or the second and final video, will just be like a quick, 3 to 5 minutes, because I might need to do a little bit of explaining. Next is the post-trade checklist. Basically, I just keep a log of the activity and my performance, asking myself questions like, did I act on the first confirmation? Are exits pre-staged? Is the size aligned with the max loss budget? The max loss budget is basically the budget that you have in mind. This is your max risk amount. So it doesn't matter what the position size is. It could be 1,000, 10,000, 50,000. Doesn't matter what the position is. How much of that are you willing to risk? Okay, that's the max. So for me, on a 50K, I'm looking to go no greater than 10%, which is 5K. But typically what I like to do is just keep it under $700. So if I miss on the first try, and I reach $500 to $700, then I'll just call it a day and wait for the next setup. Unless something is just, the setup just comes and it's just undeniable, like all the stars in the line, and I just can't, miss that opportunity. Next is the daily fear exposure journal. So I can keep track of like how confident was I when I took the trade, before the trade, once I took the trade, and then after the trade. And then lastly, reframing. This is number 6, right? Reframing yesterday's outcome. So obviously, you know, the loss on the day was 5K. I was able to recoup 10K of the 15K. So that was pretty cool. So the hidden equity gained. This is what I want y'all. I truly believe that a lot of you will value this. I had a clearer fear ceiling, right? Proof that my read on the behavior of Tesla at that moment was correct. It was right. And an itemized roadmap to turn a 5K day into a 2 to 3K day the next time the exact same pattern appears, right? So my edge isn't just the chart itself, it's the rule set that I actually obey. And as I talked about, yesterday drew the bright line between knowing the rules and living them. So I know them, but I didn't action on them consistently. So I need to close that gap, and that 13K that I left on the table becomes tomorrow's deposit slip. I love that. And so basically that's why I said it. The way I look at it is I've already paid the tuition, so I might as well make sure I stick around and collect the degree, right? And that's the thing. So let's jump into it, and I'm going to show you what I did actually. Now, as you can see here, this is the very end of the video, and you can see this is 10.4K, almost 10.5K, right, on Tesla. But let me show y'all this, man. Let me move this up. Here is that yeah, I'm gonna have to do this in another video. Let me just end it here, y'all. I'm gonna show y'all in the second video. All right, it's your man Ace, man. I'm dropping the mic right here. Till next video, I'm out.